My name is AP and I'm just a girl who likes to talk about movies, books, and TV shows, so if you're into that, please stick around. Now, a little fun fact about me is that I will rage quit a TV show, book, movie. I will rage quit. That's the gist of it, right? It really doesn't take much for me to be like, I'm not reading this anymore and I'm not watching this. I'm done. But there was one show that I could not let go of, and that show was Sleepy Hollow. And the main reason, if not the only reason, why I was so attached to that was because I was waiting until the day that Abby and Ichabod would Professor Love and be together and ride into the sunset. Like, I was waiting for that. I loved Sleepy Hollow just because it mixed two of my favorite dramas together. Historical fiction and it was mystery with a little bit of romance. Oh my god, it was like, yes, perfect combo.
No notes.
And also, the show came out around 2013, and it was the first time that I had seen a black woman in the lead of this type of show, where it was mixing all of these different dramas, and I was super excited to see it because she was part of this wave of black women breaking the mold. It was kind of rare to see a black woman as a lead in this type of show, right? Like a historical fiction type of vibes. Now, this show wasn't the first time that I was introduced to shipping culture, but it was opened my eyes to how media treated black women in these types of dynamics, especially when it was involving a conventionally attractive man, especially if that man happened to be a conventionally attractive white man. For those who are unfamiliar with what shipping culture is, it's basically shipping characters in a platonic or romantic relationship, and they don't necessarily have to be from the same forms of media or from the same shows. Like, you can basically ship anyone together. And just like the K-pop stands, it gets really weird over here. It's a fun community to be in to an extent. And the first show that really got me into that was Vampire Diaries. I happened to be like scouring. This is when fan edits were on YouTube, and I just happened to just be like scrolling on there. And I saw an edit of Bonnie Bennett and Jeremy together. And that was when I was like, oh, this looks super cool. And I was like, all right, bet, let me go watch the show. And that's when I kind of like figured out, like, oh, there are people who actually like theorize and come up with and pair and all of these different things. And just to kind of side note a bit, Kat Graham, Bonnie Bennett carried that show, okay? She carried it. But anyway, I was super excited to watch Bonnie and Jeremy's relationship when I first saw it. I was like, yes. And at the start of the show, everything was going great, but then over time my excitement quickly faded because, first of all, Jeremy, when I catch you, this mother, he did her dirty, okay? He did her dirty. And it became super frustrating to watch, especially as the seasons progressed, because you were constantly seeing the writers in particular and Jeremy play in her face, and it was just super disappointing. It's really hard to watch a show when you're constantly feeling like your character or your favorite actor is being constantly disrespected by the writers in the show, because it's like you want, especially when your character isn't necessarily a villain, you want them to have a happy ending, and when it feels like the goalpost is being constantly moved, you just don't have that. You kind of, the wind gets knocked out of you. I think throughout the entire show, Bonnie would be in a relationship and then it'd be ripped away from her, whether he was like, he ended up being like a killer murderer, or he ended up dying, or he ended up leaving her, and it was just frustrating. And just seeing that pattern just play out over and over again, it got to a point where it's like, I can't watch this anymore. And it wasn't even necessarily like a rage quit, it was more so like a disappointment quit, because like the one thing that would keep me would be like, okay, maybe seeing her get her romance was like, it felt like it would never happen. So eventually, after the umpteenth billion time they killed her off, I was like, I'm not watching this anymore, I'm done. I think it was season 4 or 5 where I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I didn't watch it until I was on TikTok actually, and I saw a fan edit of Bonnie and Damon, and I was like, oh. And like at the time I never really like saw them as a couple, but I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, to not disappoint myself this time, I got on the internet to do a little bit of research to see like, is this actually happening, or is this just like are they just gaslighting me? And to my surprise, I think there were a good amount of people who were actually like, yeah, I could see this happening. But you also had the other side including the writers, that strongly opposed them being together. Like, was like, this cannot happen. And I'm gonna go on a little rant here because, let's be honest, Bonnie and Damon make way more sense than Elena and Damon. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Because, one, if you're so overprotective about your brother and you're like, oh my, why would you then get with the man who attempted to kill your brother? And even in the books they get together and they have a kid together. So it's like, that idea isn't so far-fetched when it actually has gone canon in another form of media that the show is based off of. Anyway, getting back on track, I'm not gonna lie, this was the first time, especially seeing how like the showrunners and the writers reacted to the possibility of this being a pairing, was the first time that I saw that how Hollywood is so resistant to a black woman being the object of desirability, like an in-game type of form. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's okay if he like dates her, or it's okay if she's like it's like the disposable girlfriend, but her actually being like his main love interest, there's like such a resistance within the story writing and the fandom that is absolutely wild, because I don't understand why there's a whole uproar about the possibility of two characters who have really good chemistry being together. How many times do you have to kill off a character and bring her back because the fans are like, hey, we actually like her, stop it, for you to realize that this character is carrying your show and you still don't give her a happy ending?
BFFR. What did that spell? B fucking for real.
And let's all be honest, my friends and I agree, when they were in that other dimension, they hooked up. I'm sorry, there's no other way around it. One of the excuses that I often hear about like why they can't be together, besides like, you know, the racism, is why can't Bonnie and Damon be friends? Why can't men and women be friends? I wonder where we've heard that before. Which brings me to my next point, the bear. Now, when I first saw this show, the main reason why I wanted to watch it was because of Io Debris and her character as Sydney. Again, it was one of those roles where I was like, oh, a quirky black girl or like a kind of weird, awkward black. I like that. I relate to those characters. So I wanted to watch it for that. So when going into the show, I wasn't going and being like, oh yes, her and Carmy. So it wasn't like Vampire Diaries where I saw an edit and I wanted to watch it. It was more similar to like when I was watching Sleepy Hollow, where it was like, I genuinely, there's something about the show that I want to see, or there's something about the character that I want to see. I didn't go off with the like initial start of, when I watched the show, I didn't want her with Carmy in the first place. Like I didn't see that relationship dynamic. But then as the show like progressed and goes on, that's when I started seeing the chemistry between the two characters, and I was like, oh, I actually kind of see something here. And then as the season progressed and went on, I was like, okay, yeah, I want them together eventually. And to be honest, I still have hope, but I've been disappointed before, so who knows? The same old tired excuse came up with Sydney and Carmy. It's like, why can't they be friends? Why can't men be friends? Why can't I have men, women? Really? They can, and it's like, oh my god. There are certain ships on this planet that should not exist. That shouldn't be a thing. And yet, we're not talking about those being issues. You're over here complaining about a bunch of people being like, oh, these two characters should be together because they have good chemistry. And then being like, y'all just don't want men and women to be friends. But in the same breath, y'all still love Friends the Lovers. So, what's the point here? I had a nickel for every time that this has happened.
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot.
But the fact that it happened twice, it's freaking weird.
Right?
And the fact that this has happened twice with 2 ships involving black women who are, their romantic partner happens to be a man of a different race is interesting to me. Let me make one thing clear. I've had panic attacks before. And never once have I thought about a platonic friend to calm me down, especially if I've had like a significant other or like a partner to think about instead, right? So for me, it's really hard when people be like, I don't see the chemistry between them, or they're just platonic. I'm like, or the one that really gets me, it's like, oh, Sydney's too good for him, she's too good for him. And I'm like, but so you want him with Claire? What? It highlights to me how like people are often opposed to black women being the object of the desire. It tends to be like automatically like, no, that cannot be possible. And I even had conversations with a friend about it, and we were talking and she was like, oh no, you just don't like Claire because she's white. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because like, and I never mentioned anything about Claire, like anything negative towards her. If I'm being honest, I don't have any feelings towards Claire. She's kind of like a one-note character to me. How they portray her, at least in like the first 2 seasons, to me she seems like they're trying to make her seem like she's a place of calm, or she's trying to be like a place of familiarity to Carmy, but instead it reads as though she brings anxiety to him. And so for me, she just kind of seems as like a plot device for his story than like a fleshed out character for me to have any investments in. And I'm gonna be honest, because I'm not the type of person or the type of shipper who's like, oh, you can't be with that person, or like no one else, or I won't be able to see the chemistry with other people. For instance, I am a Aang and Katara shipper for the day I died. That is my couple. I loved them so much. However, I also understand why people like Katara and Zuko and why they want them to be together. I can see the chemistry between the 2 of them. Actually, 2 of my good friends were fighting with me about it earlier, about why I am wrong, but for me it's like, I love Aang and Katara, and my couple got together, so who won in the end? Granted, yes, I did watch the show because of Io, but also I've also fell in love with the character of Sydney. You could also say because of Io, but if she was any other race, including white, I would still love her character, and I would still want her with Carmy in the first place. I would still want them together because the chemistry that they have. Look at the under the table scene. Tapping into my film brain for a second, everything that you see on screen is delivered for the most part. Everything that they choose to frame and shoot is a choice made for a specific reason, okay? You don't just do something just to do something in these types of situations. So for them to frame it the way that they did, shoot it the way that they did, light it the way that they did, that was a deliberate choice. And to me, very, very intimate. That scene was more intimate than any other scene that he had shared with Claire up until that point. I say all of this to say, basically, it's like a long rant, is that as a Black woman, as like person who enjoys fan spaces, sometimes it's really hard because a lot of the time you don't get to enjoy at the same level as everyone else, because there's always going to be a constant pushback or racism to a degree, why something can't happen, or why this can't be, or why this was lame, or why this X, Y, and Z, and it kind of just like sucks the fun out of it. And it's really disappointing, especially when you want to be like in shipping culture in particular, and like with romance in particular, because there's always some type of excuse to dismiss why the Black girl can't win in the end, or why the Black girl can't have her love story in the end. And I would just like ask people, like, think about it, like, what is it about these pairings that are so opposing to you? Is it just because you just want your main couple to be together? Because that's different. Or is there an inherent bias that you might have toward Black women that prevents you from diving into the ships and treating them just like any other ones? But anyway, if you guys like it, let me know. If you have any comments, concerns, or questions, please put them below. And also please like and subscribe.